everybody. Monday, September 21st, 2020. And we are definitely fixing things. We're working on it. Let's take a quick look out on the water. Look how beautiful it is here at Falls of Rough, Kentucky. Mark Andes is here. Chris Pritchard is here. He's already shared. My goodness. I know Mark's going to share. Bill McNichol is here. He's going to ask you to share. But look how pretty that is out there. And you can even see a boat way out there that's parked at what we call Sandy Beach here in Falls of Rough, Kentucky. It's about 75 degrees, 76 degrees. Just a perfect day to be outside on the water, and I'm not going to be able to do that. I'd much rather be here with you all, and then I get in the van and I'm heading to Louisville because our Vote Democratic signs have come in, and that's a real big deal. I think I've shown you the picture. It says, had enough, vote Democratic. And it's got an empty side. Oh, Cindy Franklin is here, and she voted this morning. Oh my goodness. What can we say about that? That's what I think. I think that's awesome. Cindy voted this morning. And Cindy has already shared, of course, so we'll have to give her trip to heaven right there, or her angels are going to heaven. Well, there's first of all, I want to talk to you about this picture that we were showing earlier. So this is from yesterday, and you can't tell, but I'm sitting down on my knees because John Alma Barnett, who's my friend who's next to me, has recently had ankle surgery, and I'm going to say it's her ankle, something to do with her foot, and she's been had a wheelchair sort of thingy or a kind of a scooter thing that she was scooting around on in Bowling Green yesterday. We were both there for the Bowling Green Freedom Marchers gathering, and I was very fortunate. I was asked to speak, and it was kind of fun to do a political event. And John Alma is one of those folks, one of the activists that makes it all happen in the 2nd District. She's in Bowling Green. She approached me in 2018, invited me to come to her church, which is Mount Zion Baptist. And I met a bunch of the folks there, and John Alma's just been a tremendous help to the campaign all the way through. John Alma, you know I love you, and always glad to have your help and always glad to have your friendship. John Alma is also a member of the brand new Rural Council for the Kentucky Democratic Party, and that is a big deal because previous to this, there wasn't really an official way for the districts that are rural in Kentucky to address the Kentucky Democratic Party. They were always kind of feeling like they were outsiders. So this is a very powerful thing. We had our first meeting Thursday night since we were made official, and I was elected chair, probably because I volunteered. That's one of those things. Some people recognize that it's going to be a bunch of work, but I'm really glad to have it. I think it's going to be a way for us to make a difference in Kentucky, since the rural voice has not really been heard by the Democratic Party for a number of years. And some of that's very understandable. But I'm here to tell you the reason we have Donald Trump is because the Democratic Party, the National Party, gave up in districts like the 2nd. And I'm going to have a lot more to say about that in the future. But thank you to those like John Alma Barnett who show up, who make the difference. They make the difference in their own community, and she sure makes a difference for me. So John Alma, thank you. Well, we have some work to do, unfortunately. Let's, as always on Monday, the numbers look like, oh, wow, this is not so bad. Looks like we're doing okay, right? No. We know that these numbers are a little bit low, so because they're slow getting the numbers out on after the weekend, or maybe the weekend they don't select them so well. But USA still number one, and we've hit 7, that's the number to look at, 7 million cases, most in the world. We have the most amount of deaths in the world, although Brazil is going to give us a run for our money on that here pretty soon, it looks like. And India may catch us on total cases. But for the time being, we're number one. And you know what, Mary Richardson, thank you for that kind comment. Mary said, Hank Linderman, you are showing us how to make a difference. That's absolutely true. This is beyond what any one person can do. I can't do this alone. There's just no way. It's not possible. And, I'm not sure even, I'm not even sure that Mike Bloomberg, with his billions of dollars, he couldn't become the presidential nominee. And he spent a lot of money doing it. So the way to move things forward in the United States, in the Democratic Party first, is to get us more connected to the people. The Democratic Party needs to be connected, once again, to the grassroots. I've been saying that over and over again. I don't want to wear you all out on it, but that's what it is, okay? So here, let's look at the top three, because New York is actually had the most amount of, didn't they have the most amount of deaths? Yes, they have, still to date. But they are relatively in control. Cindy Braun Franklin points out that South Dakota had nearly 1,000 new cases. Not positive about this, but I think North Dakota has the most amount of cases per million. They're leading the United States with 45 new cases per million. Let's see, and there's lots of comments coming in. And David Royce, I'll get to that. Now, David, I really was expecting you to be there. I was really expecting you to have some comments when Mark LaPalme was there. It was an incredible story, and I hope you got to watch it. And those of you that haven't watched, from last Thursday, Mark LaPalme from Isaiah House, which is a rehab organization. They've got something like 250 employees and multiple facilities. They are doing the real heavy lifting at dealing with addiction in Kentucky, but it's not nearly enough. As much as they're doing, it's not nearly enough. So, David, if you haven't watched it, I hope you will watch it. As you all know, I'm in favor of safe, predictable doses for opiate addicts. I'm in favor of decriminalizing addiction, meaning that if you break into somebody's house while you're high, yeah, you should get punished for breaking into a house. But when you're out of prison and you get stopped for a busted taillight and they find out you've been high, you shouldn't go back to prison. You should go to rehab. And we need to support families. And I talk about this all the time. I hope there's some understanding of how difficult that job is going to be. But I got to move on. So let's go back to our California. I didn't include Kentucky today because the numbers were so low. I think it was 3 new deaths. But again, we know that they're slow over the weekend getting this out to us. So let's talk for a moment about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Boy, that was funny. Sorry. Have myself up in the corner, watching myself talk. That's kind of interesting. Anyway, as we know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away at the end of last week, and just terrible Friday. And of course, the Republicans are going to be working to put a replacement in right away. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of course, was an inspiring figure to all Americans. And even President Trump had a moment of appearing to be a human being and appreciating her. He said some careful, thoughtful things about her, which is not anything we normally expect from him. She's going to be lying in state, apparently. That was announced today. I haven't got the details on that. We are all, Cindy says she's gutted by her passing, and she's just heartbroken. I have to say, I was quite a bit down on Friday night when I first heard about it. And, there's a sense of hopelessness and doom that comes in. And so, but this is not the end of things, and we have got to keep moving forward, and that's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg would have wanted us to do. So I'm going to share with you some bad news first. Okay, we'll go with bad news first. The Department of Justice has identified New York City, Portland, and Seattle as jurisdictions that permit violence and destruction of property, and they've refused help. So this is essentially an attempt to this is an attempt to claw back some federal money and apply pressure to states like California and Washington because they aren't dealing with their protests, which is a bit much. Let's see what this is. So this is from the Washington Post, and they target, again, the same stories: Portland, New York, and Seattle. I said California, but they'll get to California at some point for burning too much wood or something. They'll find some way to deal with that. Anyway, an important thing to consider. Let's stay on with this story. The Trump administration was unsuccessful in a similar funding cut move against New York and other cities over their immigration policies. A federal appeals court ruled that the move violated the separation of powers spelled out in the Constitution. So there's a possibility that this is going to be just as successful, meaning the court will strike it down. But who knows? Who knows, considering the way the court is going. And it is important to remember, we'll get to the reality of federal tax dollars. I love reading the comments, and in the Washington Post, the answer to this story was great. You'll enjoy this. We cannot allow federal tax dollars to be wasted, said Attorney General William P. Barr. So Dr. Hackenbush here says, how about starting with Trump's weekend golf trips at his own resorts and the money he's pocketing as a result? Really? This is all about saving money? That's what this is about? I don't think so. I don't think so. And let's get real. States like New York pay more in federal taxes than they receive in federal benefits. So to cut back on their federal benefits, but to keep taking. Here we go. Here's the Office of the New York State Comptroller saying New York continues to send more federal tax dollars to Washington than it gets in return. They get 90 cents on the dollar. Roy Frazier is here. Roy, I'm glad you're here. I hope you're going to share, at least with your American friends. And Roy, I'm hoping you'll be part of the fundraiser stuff that's going on this weekend. And I think Mark Andes, I hope you'll be willing to be part of that too. I'll talk more about that. I got some great stuff to tell you about that. Anyway, New York, the state of New York gets taxed. The citizens get taxed more than comes back to them. So yeah, let's cut their federal tax dollars and maybe raise their taxes while we're at it. Just crazy. Well, now the news gets a little bit worse, believe it or not. I think, remember we said we're going to go from bad to good. So here's the last bit of bad news. There's a gig economy company that has launched Uber, but for evicting people, saying it's the fastest growing money-making gig due to COVID-19. So those of you that don't have anywhere to work, you can work for the bank and evict people, or for landholders and evict people. This is going to be a difficult time coming up, people. I think the idea that Congress is locked up, they have not been able to do an additional aid bill. That all expires, in less than a week? Actually, a little bit more than a week, October 1st. They're not going to get their PPP bill done with the interjection of replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That could just lock the whole system up. So everyone's going to be hurting. Big businesses, small businesses, individuals, landowners, renters, everybody is going to be hurting. So, but isn't that the way, that's the way our system works right now. We're going to let you work for minimum wage for evicting people. I'm saying minimum wage. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll pay you $15 an hour. Who knows? So that's it for the terrible, bad news, the news that will depress you. I heard a couple of things that were meant to lift me up. And one of them, I listened to Chris Hedges. And if you're not familiar with Chris Hedges, I suggest you look up some of his interviews. He's far more extreme than me. So however extreme you think I am, Chris goes a little bit further. But he quoted St. Augustine. And he said from St. Augustine, hope has two beautiful daughters. And they are courage and anger. And we are, of course, called getting angry. And we talk about if you're angry, you don't want to be a damn fool. You want to use it to focus yourself, to be able to do the thing that needs to be done. And there is so much that needs to be done here in the United States, beginning with voting. And in Kentucky, You're running out of time to get registered. Get registered. October 5th, you got days to get registered. And if you wait till October 5th, guess what? That'll be the day the internet doesn't work in your neighborhood. Carrie is here. Hi, Carrie. Good to see you. Barbara is here. I'm so glad Barbara's here. Sorry, I keep looking sideways because that's how I get to see where you all are and what's going on. Well, people will have, that's it. Pam says, maybe you can get a gig to evict yourself. Oh, Stephen Colbert, where are you? Jon Stewart, where are you? My goodness. Well, let's focus on some good news. You know, I believe that if the election were held today, it would be all over for Donald Trump. I think this election is actually finished. And I think it's baked. In fact, even the Bulwark says this cake is baked, it's iced, the candles are on it. We've blown the candles out, it's ready to go. So this is a story from Jeffrey Toobin. It's in the New Yorker. I'd suggest that you all read it. I think the New Yorker is cool about giving you a chance to read some articles, without having to pay for it right away. So let's look at some of the text from it. Still, McConnell faces a genuine time crunch. Ginsburg died 45 days before Election Day. I want to stop for a second. Point is, this is probably going to happen. The Republicans will put forward a nominee. They're going to do it by this weekend. Mitch McConnell, who said before that we're so close to an election, 7-8 months away. We're so close to an election, we had to wait. But of course, now we're very close to an election. We're 7 weeks or less than so. We're 5-6 weeks away from an election, but they are still going to push forward. So they're going to do it. Okay. They're going to go for it, but they've got some difficulties. So it says still McConnell faces a genuine time crunch. Ginsburg died 45 days before Election Day. It took 89 days for Brett Kavanaugh to be confirmed after he was nominated. It took 65 days for Neil Gorsuch to be confirmed, 87 for Elena Kagan, and 66 for Sonia Sotomayor. So there's not that much time. Ginsburg died 45 days, so that's 44, 43. We're now 42 days, all right? 42 days before the election. Now, they're going to go as quickly as they can, but this would be a very, very quick. Yet Democrats have few procedural tools at their disposal to delay this process. Specifically, under the Senate's rules, the opposition party has the right to delay a vote in the Judiciary Committee for a week. That's 7 days, makes it tougher, and has the right to insist on at least 30 hours of debate on the Senate floor before cloture, that is a final move to vote. So it does seem procedurally possible either before Election Day or during the lame duck period. The lame duck period being the period after the election when a new president has been declared, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. There would be a period when Congress could be in session and they could approve a new nominee. Well, I don't think that's that much to worry about. I'm going to talk to you about something else, and I thought I had this story up here, but I don't appear to have it. Let me see if I can find this very quickly. I need a sound button for Moscow Mitch. Well, how about this?
Now wait just a damn minute.
That's pretty good. I had this wonderful story that I was going to share with you all. Let me see if I can find it. It's in my downloads, so I've got to look really quickly, and if I can find it, I should be able to share it with you. But because it is some good news. Oh, here it is. It's a big, big swing. Let's see if I can drop that in. I just found it. Here it is. Give me a sec. It's magic. It's a big, big swing. Trump loses ground with white voters. Remember I said this was going to be some big and good news. Donald Trump is making modest inroads with Latinos. Polls suggest he's pulling slightly more black support than in 2016. But Trump is tilting at these margins with these groups. His bigger problem is that the demographic that sent him to the White House, white voters, whose embrace of Trump appears to be slipping in critical, predominantly white swing states. He's in trouble with white voters in swing states. In Minnesota, a survey last week had him running 2 percentage points behind Biden, and this is a state he won by 7 points in 2016. Sorry, it's a demographic in Minnesota with white voters. He's now 2 points behind Biden. He carried them by 7 points in 2016. Even among white voters without college degrees, Trump's base, the president was far short of the margin he put up against Hillary Clinton. It's the same story in Wisconsin, where Trump won non-college educated white women by 16 percentage points 4 years ago, but he's now losing them by 9 percentage points. In Pennsylvania, Biden has now pulled even with Trump among white voters. This is a big deal. White voters cast over 80% of the vote in each of these 3 states. It's a really, really big swing. What Biden's doing among whites is more than offsetting the slippage among non-whites. The recipe is very different this time right now anyway in terms of white voters. Now, it's possible, and I'm reading from the Politico story, it's possible that the focus on Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg will help Trump. Replacing her will help Trump. 4 years ago, 1 in 5 voters, most of them white or many of them white social conservatives, said that Supreme Court appointments were the most important factor in their vote. But Trump is working from a disadvantage this year, and we need to remind you. First of all, there's very few undecided voters. I think Stephen Colbert said said undecided voters. Where are they? These are people that have been in a coma for the last 3 years and they've woken up. Well, who's the president? Trump, put me back. So there's very few undecided voters. Everybody knows what the guy is, and you love him or you hate him, right? Not a lot of middle. Democrats are also highly energized about the Supreme Court the same way Republicans are, and Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the court 1 month before the midterm elections 2 years ago did nothing to stop Democrats from steamrolling Trump and the GOP. Speaker Pelosi apparently said today, kind of off the subject, she said that, if we held the election today, we'd win everything. Well, you want to hear the Trump sound. Roy Fraser, I've been letting you all down, but sometimes I worry that I'm overdoing it. It's just too much fun. Well, let's hear some more from President Trump. What the heck?
People taking the Fifth Amendment. You see, the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
You see, the mob takes the Fifth Amendment. You see, the mob takes the Fifth Amendment. His son took the Fifth Amendment recently. Anyway, back to Politico. The erosion of Trump's white support and its significance for the November outcome was never more obvious than his messaging in recent days. Last week, he called for the creation of a commission to promote patriotic education while dismissing critical race theory and the 1619 project of the New York Times Magazine. He lit into Kamala Harris, the first major party woman of color vice presidential nominee, lamenting the possibility of her becoming president through the back door. He released a TV ad in Minnesota and Michigan, lashing into Biden for supporting increased refugee admissions, including from the most unstable, vulnerable, dangerous parts of the world. And then before an overwhelmingly white crowd, he mocked Ilhan Omar and said that and a former refugee, and said that Biden would turn Minnesota into a refugee camp. Yeah, we're going to set up refugee camps in Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Ohio. What are those other border ground states? What are those swing states? That's where we'll set up that Joe Biden wants to set up refugee camps in the swing states. Maybe one in Florida. We should have a refugee camp in Florida, Arizona, any state that's potentially a swing state. Joe wants to put a refugee camp in. Oh, well. I loved this one. President Trump also praised Minnesotans for their good genes. What does that mean? What does good genes mean? Anyway, You love the sound effects, huh? Roy Fraser says, I sound more confident. That's the coffee, Roy. That's the coffee. Well, let's see. I don't have many more sound effects. I thought, I'll get to work on more sound effects, I guess. I've got one here we haven't used. How about this one? The sad trombone. Anyway, let's finish with this Politico article real quickly. Biden is far less objectionable to working class whites. So it looks like I say, it looks like this election could be finished. But the missing bit here, the stuff that we cannot predict, is what will happen with mail-in votes. Will the post office be able to get the votes delivered in time? We believe they can, because as much as the post office has slowed down, this is not the same thing as Christmas. But they definitely have to get these things done fairly quickly. By the way, back to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Democrats can promise a couple of things, and I kind of wish they would. I think what they should say is, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do this all at once. If you go ahead and rush this nominee through and don't let the next president and the next Congress deal with it, fine. If we take the presidency, if we keep the House, if we take the Senate, we are going to make Puerto Rico a state. And while we're at it, we're going to make Washington, D.C. a state. Pretty sure those will be Democratic senators. Pretty sure those will be Democratic Congress people. I think Puerto Rico could get as many as 3 or 4. They've got something like 3 million people. So roughly 4, possibly 5 Congress critters plus 2 senators. D.C. has 1 million people, I believe. Maybe they only have 720,000. If they've only got 720,000, then they'll only get 1 representative, but they will get 2 senators. And bear in mind, both of those places have more population than the 2 bottom states, and I can't name them, I'm sorry, right now. I can't name the 2 states with the least amount of population, but we have 2 states with less population than Washington, D.C. Anyway, that will take care of the Electoral College right there. That will be the end of the dominance by rural Republican states. And they will also, I think they should also promise to increase the size of the Supreme Court up to 13. And as soon as they're in, put in 4 liberal judges. That'll be the end of that. And increase the size of the federal judiciary. Now, we've learned that so much of our government runs by kind of gentlemen's agreements. Sorry for that term, but the reality is that the Congress and the Senate have been male-dominated for a long time. So gentleman's agreement is probably the appropriate term, at least for the moment. But Trump has shredded all that. Mitch McConnell has shredded all of that. So look, it feels really bad right now. And someone said to me, the darkest hours before the dawn. I'm not sure we're at the darkest hour. I think even if we succeed, it's going to be a very difficult time moving forward for a number of years. I think in the next 6 months, we're going to have some real difficulties related to the economy. I think there are going to be a lot of businesses that are going to go under. It looks like 60% of the businesses that have already gone under are not going to come back. So this is going to be a very, very difficult time going forward. And getting rid of President Trump will be a good start. I have a message, though, for Democrats. If they are able to keep the House and extend their lead, if they're able to win the Senate and win the presidency, they have exactly 2 years at the most to make a difference in rural America. And the reason is rural America is why we have President Trump. Rural America is who voted for President Trump. And unfortunately, Wyoming has the least people. Vermont has the second, according to Pam. Thank you for backing me up on that. This is why I say the contract for rural America is so important, the contract for rural and working America. And the idea here is that Democrats, because they did not do their job in rural America, because they basically decided they couldn't win and decided to hold their money, save their powder for working in areas they could win, they abandoned rural America. They abandoned this district 20 years ago. And it makes sense for 2 years, 4 years, even 6 years, but 16 years was too long. And that's why when President Trump came along and said, I feel your pain, basically, to rural America, they went for it. And Republicans get away with this. People like McConnell and Trump. McConnell, who's become wealthy. Brett Guthrie, the guy I'm running against, has become wealthy, giving lip service to things that Republicans care about, that people in rural America care about, but they haven't really delivered. They've delivered for their contributors. So what I'm saying to Democrats is you got 2 years to make a difference, to show rural America that you care one tiny little bit about them. You're going to need to do something. You're going to need to do, oh, I don't know. Let's have a look at the list. You're going to have to get healthcare nailed down, meaning much lower costs, much better results, easier for us to use. We need childcare. We need a national childcare system. We need support for family farms, small subsistence and family farms, a living wage, renewable energy, rural broadband, legalization of cannabis, help for addicts and their families, and so on. We're going to have to make real inroads in the problems that affect people in rural and working America. And if we are not going to do that, guess what? In 2022, Republicans will claw some space back, and by 2024, they'll be ready to run somebody like Tucker Carlson, who is just as bad as Trump, but worse. So I think rural Kentucky, rural America is the key to the future of the country, to the future of the Democratic and the Republican Party. They're going to have to actually deliver. Mary says, can I speak some more about the contract through this week? I certainly will. Now, I want to warn you all, tomorrow I have an interesting day because I'm getting in the car right now. It's such a beautiful day. I wonder if the camera's still working. Yeah, have a look at that. I mean, look how beautiful that is. It's 76 degrees. It's about as beautiful as it could possibly be. And believe me, I wish I could take a little break and go out there on the boat or the jet ski or just float on the water. It's probably still warm enough to swim, but I can't. I'm getting in the car. I've got to drive up to Louisville. We've had 1,000 Vote Democratic signs delivered, and I can't wait to get my hands on them. And then tomorrow I will be taking them throughout the 2nd District. I'll be driving all day. It takes a while to get through the 2nd District. I'll be driving all day delivering them. And that will be quite fun, but it's going to be a heck of a lot of work, and I'll be lucky to get in. I don't know. I'm not going to get in by dark tomorrow night, so it'll be just a long, long day. Maybe the weather will be nice on Wednesday. There's a film crew coming out here on Wednesday. They're going to film me on the porch. They may wind up being part of our going live then. So anyway, tomorrow I'll be live from the road. I'm not sure where I'll be. I really don't know. So it'll be an interesting one. On Thursday, we have the return of Dr. Greg Adams. He's going to be back. I know some of you don't like this picture, but I do love this picture. Yes, Dr. Greg will be back on Thursday. I just love that. I love the theme song there for Dr. Greg. Anyway, we've gone over. Thank you all so much. I love you all. Bill McNichol, great work. Great to see you, Roy. Roy and Mark, I'm going to be in touch with you, but start thinking about making a video that we can play for a fundraiser this weekend. And let's hear some, a little bit of Sooner or Later. It's another one of my songs. So Facebook, you don't have to take it down. I do have the right to use this. Remember, if you're going to get angry, use it to focus yourself, to focus your determination, to do the thing you need to do. All right, see you all later.